Tonight's program is What Sells, Creating a Saleable Body of Work. So note that all suggestions and tips are my opinions from years of experience as an artist and gallerist, as well as from input and feedback from other art professionals, such as gallery owners and art organization executives. As we all know, there is no one way to do anything, so you may choose to do things in a different way if they are best for you and your particular situation. Okay, so tonight's program, Creating a Saleable Body of Work. You know, I can't tell you that if you paint a red house, it will sell, or if you paint a yellow dog, it won't sell. So we can't get into that kind of specifics. But to make your art more saleable, I can give you suggestions on planning themes, developing your signature style, creating series, titling your artwork, your choices of media, scale, pricing your artwork, signing your artwork, your presentation, framing, and certificates of authenticity. So as you can tell, there's a lot of topics that we're going to cover this evening. So before we get started, I just want to reinforce that you should know your intention in your artist career. So you want to identify to what level do you want to take your art career? Do you want to be a full-time professional artist? Do you want to do it part-time? Do you want to make a living off of being an artist? So identifying these things will help you make some decisions. Do you want to exhibit your artwork, and where would you like to exhibit it? Would you want to have your artwork in art galleries and museums, etc.? So understanding that also will help. Do you want to sell your artwork? Some artists are more interested in just making the art than selling their art. Most likely, since you're attending this program, you want to sell your artwork. Who is your audience and potential buyer? So who are the people that could buy your art? And where would you want to sell your artwork? So you can identify different places where you could sell your work. You could have your work shown on through jury exhibitions or through art organization membership exhibitions, etc. And also to know your intention for your artwork. So this is basically your artist statement. Write out your intention statement. With each piece that you make, ask yourself if that takes you towards your intention or goal in your artwork, and judge all activities by the statement. So if you know your intention for your career and you know your intention for your artwork, then you don't make decisions that will take you away from these goals. It'll help you make decisions about your work. Okay, so before we get into creating a saleable body of work, does anybody have a question about your intentions of what we just talked about? Okay, so we'll go ahead and go back to the program. Okay, so a lot of the information that I share with you, I get from art gallery owners. I know about 50 gallery owners throughout California and the Midwest. And when I talk to them, they always share advice. So when I've asked them, what advice do you have for emerging artists? One of the things that they say, most of them say, to create artwork in a signature style. So what is that? A signature style is one that is instantly recognizable as your own. When somebody sees one of your works of art, they'll automatically know who created it. An artist with a signature style, like any brand, sets them apart and makes them instantly memorable and recognizable. Your signature style is a solemn promise. It's a promise to your trusted buyer. You're telling them what they can expect from you now and in the future. So how do you develop signature style? First, look at what you enjoy creating. Look at what subject matter you have a passion for. And this is another thing that the gallerists always tell me. An artist should do what they have a passion for. Their passion comes out in their artwork. So having a passion for your subject matter, your technique, your medium is really important. Look at what you are good at. select a signature style that you feel comfortable with the techniques. Starting from scratch, it takes lots of time, a couple years maybe, to really master the technique and the craft. So maybe look at something you've already started and you're already good at. You should choose a signature style that you will never get bored with, because your signature style is probably going to stay with you for the next 5 years, 10 years, etc. Look at what is selling. People must be willing to buy what you create. So always ensure there is a demand for your signature style. It doesn't mean that you copy what somebody else is doing or you follow the trends. It's just really good to know the universe, the world that you're working in, what the other artists are doing, and that your work will also be desirable. You want to ensure there is enough variety in your subject matter and your signature style. So if you pick a subject matter that's really narrow, you probably get tired of it in a year or two. If you take a subject matter that you can explore a lot of different aspects of that, you could work on the same subject matter for years and years to come. When you create within a signature style, you cut out all that figuring out time. So you can create a lot more artwork for sale in less time. That figuring out time makes everything slower, the making of the work, and even your confidence in making the work. So if you work on something within your signature style, you've already worked out all the challenges, and you can make work a lot faster. When you create works that are similar, you're getting a lot of practice in the techniques. We all know that practice makes perfect. So even though you can create your artworks quicker, you are also able to make them look better. Okay, so any questions about signature style? Raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay, yes, Carolyn Whalen, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
My question is this. So you said to look at what's selling and see if my work fits in there, but my work is it's different, it's unique. So I'm not sure how I can compare it to other people that are selling. I don't know how to do that.
Okay, well, it sounds like I'm giving you bad advice. So number one, you should always be true to yourself, and what you should do should be unique, because that's your signature style. It's unique to you and nobody else is doing what you're doing. But have a sense of what other artists are doing. So let's just say you are painting in glass in reverse. Are there other people doing this? Are they, where are they selling it? Or I found that I was doing that, and I found that art galleries said, oh, that's a craft, that's not fine art. Well, it was painting, but they were saying, no, but you're painting on glass, you need to sell that in a glass gallery. So what I was doing actually was creating a challenge. So it was kind of important for me to be aware of that. And I ended up approaching art glass galleries and getting my paintings on glass in reverse into 12 different galleries. So I actually was successful, but I had to know where to put it, what to do with it, and who wanted it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just need to do some exploring of what is selling in other galleries, what are the artists here around me in the North Bay area are doing. And then I can probably target certain markets or galleries or people. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a big challenge with what I was doing until I figured out this is a market that's good for me. And then I was very successful with it.
Right.
That's
And
the
on the other hand, though, I'm doing something that's different from everybody else. In a way, it's unique. It's my thing. So
yeah. And that's what a signature style is.
Okay.
So you should continue with that. Okay, Carolyn,
Yeah.
thanks for your question. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and resume the program. Okay, so also you want to generate a cohesive body of work. So gallerists are looking for artists with a cohesive body of work that is consistent and makes a strong statement. Cohesive can include subject matter, composition, style, technique, scale, size, shape, medium, presentation, and or framing. So for example, there's an artist down in San Diego who teaches, and he's very successful, and he paints landscapes, and he does beautiful job painting. But what he does is he paints long, narrow, vertical panels. Now, when you see landscapes, they're usually horizontal, hence the name landscape. But he does vertical, where a third of the way down is the horizontal horizon line. And so his composition and his shape is really unique. And that helps to make his work cohesive. All his pieces are the same size and the same orientation. So that's an example of cohesive. They're all landscapes, they're all the same shape, and they're all the same composition. But you can come up with other things that create what is cohesive work for your work. And then you must have a sufficient number of pieces. So if you want your artwork in 5 different galleries, and for a gallery to have your work, let's just say it's basically medium to large pieces, they may want to have 5 pieces on hand on display, or have some pieces in the back room. So they're going to want, if you have 5 galleries, they're going to want 25 pieces that are going to have to be out and in the world for people to see. And then once they sell pieces, they're going to want new pieces to replace what they've sold. And you may be looking for new galleries, or you want to have your work in juried exhibitions. So you may need to have another 20 or 25 pieces on hand to be able to replenish and to participate in other exhibitions. So that means you have to have about 50 pieces to be able to handle 5 art galleries and all your other art activities. So you need to think about, if you want to be successful, how many pieces can you make? And if each piece takes you quite a long time, then you might consider, how can I maybe make some pieces faster, or have a separate series that might be a little faster, that's easier to make. Okay, any questions about a cohesive body of work? Raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, Karen, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Stephen, I was glad to hear that you're a glass artist as well. That's what I am. And so I was curious if you would change any of that advice you just gave around quantity for that particular medium, especially if you're working sculpturally or at some type of scale, like larger scale.
So I think what's really a good approach is to have pieces that are maybe 3 different sizes. And we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail, but you can have larger pieces that take longer to make, medium pieces that still take a bit of time and effort to create, but they sell a little less expensive, and then smaller pieces that you can make more of, that you can make quicker. And that way you can have 1 large piece in a gallery with maybe 2 or 3 medium-sized pieces and maybe 6 small pieces. And that way there's a variety of prices, a variety of sizes, and your larger pieces, you just won't have as many in the gallery if you do a variety of sizes. Does that sound like a good approach?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, so some of this is just kind of practical. It almost doesn't have to do with artistic talent, but about having a strategy and a game plan. Any other questions before we go on? Okay, so we'll go ahead and resume. Karen, thank you for your question. Okay, so another things that you should do is create works in series. That's kind of typical for artists. We like to experiment and try different things. And, I'm like that. In fact, I probably experiment a little too much. But gallerists are looking for artists that create work in series, and they might choose one series or over another. So artists often work in series with variations on a theme, And you should organize your work in this manner. It makes it easier for people who are interested in buying your work, or a gallery who wants to represent you or include you in an exhibition. When they go to your website, it's organized by series. And most gallerists say to me, when I go to an artist's website and they organize it by series, then it's easy for me. I'll pick 5 pieces from this series. Very rarely will a gallerist pick 1 from series A, 2 from series B, 1 from series 3, C, and then 1 from series D. They want to make a cohesive statement, so they'll usually choose from within a series. So what you're doing is making it easier for your potential purchasers and your gallerists to identify works that they would want to show and sell or buy. So a successful series should allow each individual artwork to be able to stand on its own, yet simultaneously relate to the rest of the other works in some manner. The ability to focus and stay on track is critical to making a series of artworks that work together. Your mindset is just as important in developing a series as your physical actions to create the artwork. So for example, this is something that I just kind of made up, but let's just say I'm an artist that's exploring movement in nature. That's my overarching intention or artist statement. And then I work in different series. So I'm going to explore movement in nature through water, and that would be through waterfalls. And then I'll explore movement in nature through air, and that would be concentrating on clouds. And then I would do explore another series that would be movement in nature through land, and that might be, earthquakes. So I have different series that I can explore different aspects of the main theme. So it's helpful to establish a list of rules for each of your series that provide a structure that you can consistently follow and sustain for a long period of time. Write down what the list of rules are and make sure that you stick to them from the beginning to the end of the series. The rules can create both conceptual and visual cohesion for the series overall. So again, this means that you want to make a cohesive body of work, and you want to create, a cohesive series, but it doesn't mean you can't explore and experiment. But as you have, let's say you're creating a series, you want to have 10 pieces in that series, you follow the rules. After making 10 pieces, you might experience like, well, if I tried this, that might be really cool. So then you go and experiment kind of on the side as well, but you try to create a cohesive body of work. Okay, any questions about those recommendations? Raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay, Mary, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Can you give some examples of rules? I guess because I'm trying to think of how broad or narrow are you thinking of as these rules? So even with your type or style of art, how would you think of as a couple of rules?
So there's different things that you could use for rules. It's like what colors. You can have consistent colors. I'm going to do this series all in cool colors with a few pops of warm colors. I'm going to make this series all square shaped. Everything's going to be squared. They're going to be all the same size. I'm going to do landscapes. I'm going to concentrate on clouds in the distance more than the land or the sky. So I might have a little bit of land at the bottom, but then I'm going to really develop the clouds and make it about clouds. So then you're consistent in that. I'm going to be really brushy and very active in my brush strokes and make it really dynamic. So those are some of the things that you could say in a series. So in the paintings on glass in reverse that I was doing, they were all horizontal lines. They were all colors overlapping each other. So those were all rules that I used. So I only used horizontal lines. I used overlapping colors. So colors would I use transparent paint so the colors would mix together as you saw the pieces. Is that an example, enough examples of rules?
Oh, no, that was really perfect.
Okay, good. So simple things like that. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, let's go ahead and restart the presentation. Okay, Mary, thanks for that question. So the next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to go into this in quite a bit of depth, is titling your artwork. So titles offer added information or clues into the meaning of each piece. So take advantage of the opportunity to communicate with the viewer. Don't use untitled. So if you're selling a piece of artwork, and let's just say it's $10,000, and you put all this time and energy to make this fabulous piece of work, and then you title it Untitled or Untitled Numbers 82. The viewer, when they see the title, they're going to say, well, this must not be really important to the artist because they didn't even bother putting a title on it. Or this must not mean anything to the artist because they're not sharing the meaning to me. So to me, Untitled is a cop-out. So take advantage of the opportunity to communicate through your titles. So if you are an author, you will be writing, your book might be 300 pages. And it might take somebody a week or two to read your book. So you've got all this time, all these words, all these pages to communicate to the reader. But if you're a visual artist, somebody may come into a gallery, they may spend 60 seconds looking at your art, if that long. So if they look at a title, they're going to give them so much more information to understand the piece that they might want to linger and look at the piece even more. So I've seen this happen in my gallery many times where somebody comes into the gallery, they're looking around, there's a piece of art, they may be standing in a distance, but you can tell that it's captured their attention, and they stand there longer and they look at it, they study it, and then they walk up and look at it closer and they look at the details. And then usually the next thing to do is look at the card wall label next to it and read the information, and they read the title. And many times they've immediately turned around and said, okay, I want to buy this. And I'll ask them, what made you decide to buy this particular piece? Oh, the title. This is where I grew up, or this is how I feel when I come home for work. These are actually answers that I've gotten when I've asked them. There's something about the title that they relate to, and they go, yeah, I'm going to buy this. So the title can help make them decide this is what they want. So I think you should use a consistent format of individual titles in the series. So each piece in a series might be a location, or each piece, each title in a series might be feelings and emotion. There's a show I saw down in San Jose. It was a figurative works, black and white, graphite, and in each piece there were two figures, and the pieces were beautiful. The line quality was great. The composition was fabulous. And I looked at the show and I just was really impressed with the skill of the artist. But then I went and looked at the wall labels, and each label was a quoted sentence of what one figure was saying to the other. And all of a sudden, you knew who the people were, you knew what relationship they had between each other, you knew what was going on, and it took it from being really nicely executed figure drawings to an insight into people. And it took it to a whole new level. So that title made all the difference in the world. So titles also allow for easy identification of each piece. So, you know, you're taking pieces to a gallery or to an exhibition, and you have to do a delivery record, and you need to title each piece, and it's easy to have the identification of the pieces using the titles. And then you're going to have different series, as we talked about before. So each series should have a title. so that people can relate to each series. Okay, so coming up with great titles for artwork can be difficult. Many artists feel like it's more work to come up with a title than it is to create a masterpiece. But titles matter. A buyer wants to feel like that artwork they are about to purchase from you is one of your best ever. That it truly is one of your masterworks. They're going to have a hard time believing that if you call the piece Untitled Number 427. So a good title becomes part of the buyer's narrative. Particularly good title will help sell the artwork. Conversely, a bad title might hamper your sales. So what makes for a good title? A good title will provide insight into your inspiration for the artwork and may help the artwork tell its story. A good title will leave room for the viewer to bring his or own meaning and interpretation to the artwork. So this is something that I call mystery. And I think in every piece that you make, you want to leave a little mystery in it. So it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle and leaving a few pieces out. So when a person is looking at your artwork and there's some pieces missing, they have to bring their own experience to it and figure it out. They need to dive into the piece and explore the mystery and solve the mystery. So a title can have the same effect where you don't give away everything that's happening, but you leave some mystery for interpretation of the viewer. Additionally, a good title will be memorable and catchy. It will be original, but not too cheesy. You know, and if people love the title, when it's hanging in their home and they have guests coming over and the guests comment, "Oh my God, I love that painting." You say, "Well, you guess what the title is? It's such and such." And everybody will start talking about the piece because it's such a great title and it helps other viewers enter your piece. Okay. You should keep it short. Obviously, there could be exceptions to that rule, but basically keep it short to maybe, 2, 5, even 7 words. How do you come up with titles? Start with the obvious. If there are elements in the artwork that are key focal points, use those elements as jumping off points. Was there a driving emotion or inspiration that led you to create the work? If so, try and draw a title from that inspiration. Is there an underlying story behind the work? Try to clue the buyer into the story with your title. Try to put yourself in the viewer's shoes. What will they see when they look at your work? What do you want them to focus on? Then write a title that helps them focus on what you want them to see. So coming up with titles can become more difficult over time. So it might be easy to come up with the first 10 titles of a series or the first 20 titles of a series. But when you're making 30, 40, 50 pieces, and each one needs to be titled, it could become more difficult. So this all sounds great in theory and will work for the first dozen or so pieces an artist creates. But what about after you've created hundreds of pieces? Eventually, you're going to run out of creative, unique titles. So try to combat this issue, or to combat this issue, try to come up with a naming system. Look to poetry or mythology for inspiration. Have a dictionary and thesaurus around. Can help from others as well. So anytime I create titles, I go to the dictionary. I have a set of words that I'm going to use or a few titles. I go to the dictionary and look for other words for understand the meaning and look for other words. Go to the thesaurus, look for new words in that, and it gives me more words. And I actually put together a Word document and I have potential titles and I group them. So I'll have sayings all in one group and phrases and in another group and individual words that I think are cool or sound good, like G-Jaw or Jim Cracks or gadgets, just cool words. And I just collect words. And then when it's time to write some titles, I can go to my Word document for inspiration. I've already pulled and organized some words that go together, and then it makes it easier for me. So examples of good titles. So For one word, a title, commitment. Commitment, it's loaded with meaning. Commitment to what? Commitment to your relationship, commitment to your life, commitment to your job, etc. Or desert flame. So this could be giving you a bit of an idea of a location and then a thing. So desert flame. It could be an actual fire, but it could be more of like the color of a sunset in the desert and the flame of the color. Aspen elegance, again, a location, and then an emotion or feeling or a sense of ambiance. Scarlet passion, that's one that I came up with the artist that I was working with in a program. And he said, you know, I name it red number 2, red number 4, green number 5. And I said, well, you know, why don't we pick all the different versions of red? And we made a list of all the different versions, including scarlet. And I said, what are you doing, trying to do with your colors? And he says, I'm trying to explore feelings and emotions and express that through my colors. Okay, so list colors that match with red. And he came up with angst and passion and others. So we came up with tying the color with an emotion together, scarlet passion or red angst or green envy, you know. And so we put together titles that were kind of obvious, but also steered people towards the emotion. One of my favorite titles I've ever seen is Conversation with Myself. Again, it's loaded. It makes you think what's going on here and what's going on in the mind of the figure, etc. So these are some examples of short titles that are good. Okay. So any questions about titling your work? Raise your hand. Did you feel that this was worthwhile and helpful to hear that much detail about titles? Yes? Okay. Okay, I think titles are really important. That's why we spent so much time on that. So let's go ahead and go on to our next topic. Okay, media. Okay, so as an artist, your choice of medium is fundamental to your entire art practice. Whether you're taking up a new medium, or considering continuing with a current one, there are several important elements to consider. Is it easy to acquire? So there was an artist in New York who was a sculptor, and she made art from found metal. And she'd go around Manhattan and Long Island and look for a discarded metal along the side of the road or in junkyards and dumps. And she found that she was taking up over half her time acquiring the material and realized that it was hindering her from making more work. So she started purchasing metal and then distressing it and bending it. And that way it was easier to acquire, and she could spend some more time actually making the pieces. Or can you afford it? And are your clients willing to pay for it? So let's just use an example of gold leaf. If you're using gold leaf in your work, gold leaf looks beautiful. It has a really unique look, but it's very expensive to purchase, and your clients are going to have to pay a lot more for it. So I know several artists that were using gold leaf and silver leaf, but they found these paints that are out there that are highly reflective, metallic, that almost look like gold leaf or silver leaf. And so they started buying this paint, and it is expensive paint, but it was a lot less expensive than actual gold leaf and silver leaf. So that way they could keep the pieces affordable for their clients. Do you have a studio space that can accommodate making your art? Can you use your medium in your space? So if you're making paintings in your own home and you use your kitchen breakfast table to paint on, if you're using oil paint, you're going to have like a lot of scents and smells from the oil paint, and some materials are toxic, and you don't want that in your home. So you may choose to have use acrylic space, acrylic paint. So keep in mind, you know, where you're working and can you accommodate what you're doing in your space. Do you have enough room, enough to accommodate large pieces? Is the medium appropriate for your message? So are you using the right medium for what you want to say with your artwork? Do others easily understand the medium? So we had at our gallery several artists that would use photographs that they would have printed on canvas, then have the canvas stretch, and then they would hand paint over the photographs. And people would come into the gallery and say, is that a photograph or is this a painting? What about this part here? This looks like a photograph. And we spent so much time explaining the medium and how they made the pieces that the people never really looked at the piece itself and how gorgeous it was and how much meaning it had, etc. So people not fully understanding the medium actually hindered them from being able to appreciate the actual statement that was being made with the pieces. Is the medium in style? So one of the things that I use as an example is encaustic. Back in the 90s, I shared a studio with an artist that worked in encaustic, and she did really thoughtful, large-scale sculptural pieces, and they were absolutely beautiful. But so many artists at the time were discovering encaustic, and they would just print a photograph and then put encaustic over it and call that art. And it just kind of diluted the beauty of, or the importance of encaustic. So encaustic has come back again. Lots of artists are using it in a fine art manner. So is the medium in style? Well, encaustic wasn't in style back in the 90s. People didn't understand it, and it was used more like a craft. But now it's being used for high art. And so people are starting to understand it, and it's in style. Okay, then there's also scale. So scale plays a huge role in how your art is perceived. Consider your target audience when choosing scale. When possible, create work in a range of sizes. So if somebody lives in a mansion in San Francisco, they have really high ceilings and big walls, they're going to want large artwork. But then there's a lot of people that live in San Francisco and they share an apartment with other people and they only have control over their own room. So they end up buying smaller pieces. They may love art and want to buy a lot of pieces, but they're going to have to buy smaller. So identify your target audience. Can they afford your art high prices? Can they display larger pieces? So as I shared earlier, you can create artwork in different ranges of sizes so people can have you can make small pieces, medium and large pieces that will fit in many different people's homes. Your pricing should be reflected with the scale. So of course, smaller pieces should be less expensive. Larger pieces should be more expensive. I actually had the experience where I went into an open studio event. I was looking at pieces in the artist studio. They didn't have them priced. I asked about a large piece that was about 24 by 24. And he said, oh, that's $3,000. And then I saw a small piece next to it. And I thought, oh, that's smaller. I like that a lot too. Maybe I can afford that. So how about that smaller piece? How much is that? And he said, oh, well, that's $10,000. Well, I freaked out. It's like, what? You're selling a smaller piece? And he goes, yeah, well, it's my favorite piece. And all of a sudden I went, I can't trust this artist because he's pricing his work by his subjective intuition, almost by whim. So how can I trust that these pieces are priced fairly? So I ended up not buying a piece. So so you'd think larger pieces are more expensive. Not everybody does that. You should create art in your signature sizes and shapes. So each series should have its signature size, signature shape. I find that when you create pieces within a series that are all different sizes and all different shapes, you have some squares, you have some rectangles, you have 16 by 20s and 18 by 24s and 20 by 30s and 12 by 12s. people look at this paintings and they go, well, this is kind of a jumble. I'd like to buy several, but I don't know how to display them. I'll buy this one. But if they're all 20 by 30 and they're all lined up on the wall in a gallery or in your studio, they go, oh my God, these are all great. I love these. I want these 3. And they'll pick out 3, and it's easy for them to hang those in their home because they're all the same size and they make sense. So by having signature sizes and shapes within your series, it makes it easier for people to buy multiples. Okay, any questions about media or scale? Raise your hand if you have any questions. No questions? Okay, since you don't have any questions, I have, okay, well, Carolyn Whalen, you have your hand up. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, my question is this. So, right now I'm looking at, I bought 10 48 by 36 canvases, which is as large as I go. And I want to create a series, but I'm wondering if I need to create smaller ones in that same series, or if the 10 is sufficient because they're so big. I have no idea how I'm going to exhibit them or where I'm going to put them, but that's what I did.
Okay, just from my own experience of being an artist for several decades, I find that when I make some smaller pieces, they allow me to experiment, make mistakes. Because if I'm making a really big piece and I make a mistake, it may be hard to remedy that, paint over it, or figure it out. So maybe make a big piece, see what you can do. If you have a few challenges in this or that, maybe make a few small piece to kind of test out and work out the medium or the colors or the way things work, then go back to making a large piece. So you might use some medium-sized pieces or smaller pieces to kind of work out the technique. And then you could also show and sell those smaller pieces. So they serve a purpose for the making of the art, but they also allow you to have some pieces that are less expensive. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And so my follow-up would be, I'm thinking that they should all be, since they're so big and they're series, they should all be either vertical or horizontal and not both. Is that correct?
Yes. Again, it's hard to, it's somebody falls in love with 2 of them and they want them, but one's vertical and one's horizontal, they're going to look weird in their home. So making them all horizontal or all vertical makes it easier. So the title of the program tonight is What Sells, creating saleable work. So this is what makes it more saleable. Having consistent shapes and sizes and orientation makes it easier for people to buy more pieces from you. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so before we go on, I'm going to just ask each of you to share with me a title of your artwork. Like what's a title that you've used in your work? Okay, so I'm just going to go across the board. Stacy, you want to unmute yourself and share with me one title that you've used in your artwork before that you really like.
One that I just recently did was for a large painting of a stag, and I called it Numen, which is N-U-M-E-N, which has the meaning of kind of a sacrosanct figure and some definition. So it's kind of mysterious, but it's got a relatable meaning, I think, or at least did to me.
Okay, so can I just interject? If I don't know what that word means, I look at that title and it doesn't explain anything to me. So what if you had the definition or explanation, like Newman : and then like just a short sentence explaining what it is? So incorporate that in the title so people understand that this is the god of fire, or that this is such and such. Or you include that, or maybe not include that in the title, but put that as in parentheses underneath the title or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. I do that sometimes also. I see that in other work, and it takes some of the mystery away from me to see that explained. And so maybe it's better to avoid using those kind of titles than having to define them like that. It's probably something I should do.
Or use a title that everybody understands, like everybody knows who Atlas is, or people understand Prometheus. Most people know these, so use a title that is more recognizable for people. If you don't want to explain what that means. But I think the title, if I don't understand what the definition of that is, then it's not serving a purpose. But I like the idea of using a mythical title like that. So Stacy, thank you for sharing that. Susan,
Sure.
if you want to unmute yourself and share with us a title that you've used, and then I can critique you and beat you over the head. No, I'm joking. Susan, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, so one I have is Sweet Memories. It's a painting, a watercolor painting of part of a hat. It has 2 roses at the bottom. And it has some leaves and, some nature in the sort of placed in different areas in the background space. So what do you think?
So that's good. So you have an assortment of items depicted in the piece. Sweet Memories is the title, kind of brings them all together. Like, why are these grouped together? Because they're all sweet memories. They're all things that you've thought about that are important to you, that you hold dear. So it groups the pieces together instead of just having a variety of different pieces just in a, still life. So that's a good title. And again, using 2 words, memories is a noun and sweet is an adjective, so that you, instead of just using memories, you use sweet memories. So you can have sweet memories, you have distant memories, you have, you can use the word memories again. You can use the word sweet in different titles as well. Okay,
Okay,
so
thank you.
thanks for sharing that. Karen, you want to unmute yourself and share with us just one title that you've used in any of your artwork?
I'll tell you about one that I'm working on right now. It's called Sails Down, and it's a posthumous collaboration between myself and my grandmother, who was a painter, and I'm a glass sculptor. So I'm taking one of her paintings and I'm encapsulating it in a large block of glass. And then I do a very signature style where I take big panels of glass and I fold it into shapes, sort of talking about how I store memories in my brain. And so I'm going to create some folded pieces that go along with it to represent the sails that go along with that painting that are somewhat depicted in her painting, to talk about just kind of talking about my relationship with her, and then also just how the area that I live in, we have a lot of sailing here. So it is also commentary on place as well.
Okay. So you have the theme within your mother's piece, and what you're making is sails, and you're maybe not each piece of glass will look like a sail to everybody, but once they read the title, they'll go, oh, these are sails. Now I see that. And it gives them a little additional information. And it also helps them to relate to the area that they live in. So that's good. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that. Okay,
Thanks.
Christy, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one title that you've used in your artwork.
Okay. Well, I just finished a still life, and I was having a heck of a time titling it. And the title that I came up with is Amber Dust Silent Companion. As I said, it's a still life. It's a very old, excuse me, it's a very old amber glass bottle with a big drape behind it, and then right next to it is a little antique camel and a poppy pod. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but the whole thing together creates kind of a vintage, kind of a memory setting. So I called it Amber Dust Silent Companions.
Okay, so the silence is they're all standing there, they're quiet,
Yeah.
they're stationary. So they're silent companions. So it gives you a feeling of like what these items are and how they relate to somebody. And then you're using the color that ties all the pieces together. So that all makes sense. Okay, Christy, thanks so much for sharing your title with us. And Karina, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one title that you've used in your artwork.
Yeah, hi. I have one of my favorite pieces. It's a digital painting called The Seductive Bubbles. And it's a pop art with big red lips in the foreground, and behind all bubbles, black and white. I can actually have it in front of me. You can see what I'm talking about.
Okay, so seductive bubbles. So it's not just, yeah, so people could look at that and see lips and bubbles and go, what is that? What's going on here? But then using the word seductive, then it's interjecting an action or a feeling that somebody's lips, a woman's lips, she's being seductive, etc. So thank you for sharing that as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and resume the program. Thanks for sharing your titles with us. It's always fun to hear what other people are doing. Okay, so we'll resume. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is framing your artwork. So all the gallerists that I know and professional framers, they all use the same suggestion. Keep it simple. Let the piece make the statement. You don't want the frame to overpower the piece. So when you're choosing how you're going to frame a piece, you want to make sure that the piece stands out and that the frame complements the piece and doesn't fight the piece. Also today, when choosing a frame, wood frames are a lot more popular than metal. Back in the 80s, and yes, I'm that old, the artwork, Nielsen metal frames were really popular. It was part of the whole 80s high-tech look. But today, wood is what's really popular, and metal just seems out of place. Framers and gallerists recommend black or white lacquer or natural wood. Keep it simple, and then make sure that it's substantial enough to hold the weight. So the thickness of the frame, the bigger the piece, the thicker the frame needs to be. And if you're framing a piece and it's not only the width of the frame, but the depth of the frame. So a frame that's only 1 inch deep makes a piece look like, this is a nice little piece, even if it's a large piece. But if it's 3 inches deep, then the whole piece gives it more substantial feeling. Gives it more of a feeling of an object, makes it more powerful. It makes a stronger statement. So the depth of the frame could make a difference as well, especially in larger pieces. Then if you're going to use a matte, again, what most people recommend is white or off-white with a minimal texture, and you can have a thin black matte liner that will just kind of accentuate the piece. So having red or pink or aqua mattes then kind of fight the actual artwork. So again, just like the frame, you want to let the artwork make the statement and not the matte. Now, if for some reason your whole series, let's just say, is about pink, and all the pieces all have pink mattes, and then the pieces in them are different colors with pink highlights, then that might make sense. There might be a good reason to use a color, but generally white or off-white is what most framers and gallerists prefer. Museum framing has become a very popular style, and it actually adds value to the piece. So museum framing, it started out in museums. And let's use the example, they were back in photography was a new medium, and most people didn't think about it as being art or fine art. And then as the years progressed in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, museums started addressing photography as being a serious art. And so they started finding like daguerreotypes and silver prints and sea prints that were little prints that were like 3x5 or 4x6. And if they put it in a little 8x12 frame and put it in the museum, it would just disappear. So they started by creating a mat around it that was 8 inches or 12 inches around each side, or maybe the bottom was even longer. And then they had a black simple frame around it. So all of a sudden, this little 3x5 photograph that kind of disappeared got important, it got substantial by all this space of the mat and the nice simple black frame. And so on the wall, the piece comes to life. So museum framing has become very popular, where you have the mat a lot wider than it usually would be, okay? Or you can have your work unframed. So if you choose to do unstretched canvases, you want to make sure that they're sturdy, that they don't wobble, that they're thick enough. So again, a 3/4 inch frame stretch canvas, unframed, looks like something maybe a student in junior high or high school would do. So again, you might want to have 2 inches or 3 inches or even 5-inch thick canvas. So you want canvas that's bigger, thicker, to give it a feeling of that it's substantial and sturdy. You want to make sure that the edges look nice. So it's either you take the painting around the edges, continue the image around the edges, or you paint the edges a solid color. You paint them white, you paint them black, or you might paint them gray or something else. And that if they're staples, that there's no staples that are visible on the sides, that all the staples are on the back. So that's a kind of good rule of thumb for unframed stretch canvases. Or you could mount pieces on boards and have them unframed. So cradled panels have become really popular, and they're completely acceptable in galleries now. When I go to a gallery, I see a lot of works that are mounted on board on a cradled panel. So you want to make sure that this board is sealed first. So if you're going to paint on it, or you glue a photograph or glue collage on it, or you make the works directly on the board, that the chemicals and the materials from the board are not going to migrate into the medium. Okay, and then we also have the signature. So use your signature as your logo. So you keep your signature on every piece and you keep it recognizable and consistent. So each piece is signed, people can read it, it's consistent, they can identify it by the style of your signature. You don't have one kind of signature for one piece and a different kind of signature for another, and you place it where it is visible on the front, which is generally the lower right-hand corner. Now, some people, especially purists in the art world, they say, oh, well, a signature is not part of the piece. The signature shouldn't be on the front, it should be on the back. Well, I'd say less than 1% of the galleries feel that way, and less than 1% of people that are educated art purchasers feel that way. A signature is the artist saying, I've worked on this piece, I've spent hours on this piece, it is now finished, and I'm signing it to tell the world it is complete. So it's almost like a piece isn't complete until it has a signature. And a story I want to share with you is, I had a piece that somebody bought here in Chicago. They hung it in their condo. They went to a gallery and they found a piece by another artist. They loved it and they wanted to buy it. And the gallery delivered it to their condo in Chicago. And while they were delivering the piece and hanging the piece, they saw my piece. They liked it. They looked at it, they saw the signature. They got back to the gallery and they went online and researched me. They liked what they saw. They actually picked up the phone and called me and said, we just saw your work in so-and-so's home. We really like it and we'd like to represent you. So my signature sold me to a gallery because it was readable, it was recognizable. And I think that's really important. Another thing that I want to share with you is Ruth Bachhoffner owned a gallery in Santa Monica. She originally had a gallery in New York for a couple decades, and she moved to California, and I think she had her gallery at Bergamot Station for 2 or 3 decades also. So her career was selling artwork, and she shared with me, Stephen, if I sell a piece of work by Jimmy Gleason to somebody in Beverly Hills, I know that I will probably sell another dozen pieces by Jimmy Gleason in the next 6 months, because people don't always have confidence in their own tastes. But if they go to somebody's home and they see a piece of artwork they really like that's in somebody's home, they're going to go, oh, this is really cool. I want one of those. They feel more confident. They'll look at the signature and then they'll come and do the research and contact me. So that's another reason to use a signature. Okay. So any questions about framing your work or your signature? Okay. So Mary, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
So you use this word cradled panel, and I don't know what that is.
Yes. And I thought about that, and I should, let's see, do I have one? Yes, I'm going to grab one. I thought, as I was talking about, I was thinking I should have one next to me to show. So this is a cradle panel. This is a collage. It's on wood. You can see this is the cradle. This is the panel. There's no need to frame it. The artist painted it red. So there's no need to frame it. It just hangs right on the wall. So this is a cradle panel. It comes in different sizes. It comes in different depths. And if you go to Blick or Artists and Craftsman Supply, you'll see all different shapes and sizes and different finishes. There's wood finishes, there's unfinished, there's gessoed finishes. So there's a variety. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I have a supply. I just didn't know they were called that.
Okay, great. Okay, Mary, thanks for your question. Any other questions? Raise your hand. Okay, Christy, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. I, for a long time, have been signing my work with a chop. It's a C and an M, kind of an abstract initial. And I'm wondering, based on what you're saying, if I should change that, because, you know, nobody would know who CM is looking at it. But it's cool looking, and I did that because my printing and handwriting is terrible.
So, number one, there's an artist that I own a piece of artwork of his. It's hanging in my home. It's one of my favorite pieces. And he has an embosser that he embosses a circle with his initials in there. That's really cool looking. But then below it, he goes ahead and pencil signs it. So this works on paper. So you have a chop, you can continue to use the chop. That's your logo. But if you can add a simple signature below, or maybe even, well, I think it's best just to use your name, Christy Marks. And if you could figure out a way to just simply write it. My handwriting was awful. And as growing up, as I knew, I was new in high school, that was going to be my career as an artist. And so I started trying to change my signature and came up with, instead of the S, the old fashioned way, I made the S like a print S. And I had a friend that his name was Victor. And when he finished the writing his name Victor, he'd just keep the pen on the paper and come back and cross the T. And I went, that's great. I'm going to do that. So I actually manipulated my signature to make it really cool. And people commented comment on it all the time. I go to a store and I use a credit card and I have to sign, and people, oh my God, that's such great signature. So you may come up with some way to sign your name that's a little easier for you or more unique. That might not be your regular signature. That might be more legible.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Okay, so another thing, I have a rubber stamp that has my signature. And if I'm
Yeah.
sending out mass mailings, instead of signing each one, I stamp my signature. So maybe
Yeah.
if you get some kind of stamp with your signature, dip it in paint, test it out, see if that's something like that'll work.
Yeah, that might. Okay, great,
Okay.
thanks.
Good question. I don't know if I had the right answer for you though. Okay, any other questions? Raise your hand. Okay, Carolyn Whalen, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Well, yeah, I guess I have to say, I guess I'm one of those purists. I haven't been signing on the front. I've been signing on the back. So if I want to change, shall I just take all of my paintings that I have and go ahead and sign them on the front and continue to do that from now on?
If
Is that
you
what
just
you would recommend?
Yes, if you decide to do that, I mean, again,
I don't have to.
Out the program that these are my recommendations,
Right.
but there's no one way to do anything. But I think a signature really adds to a piece.
All right. So just take all the paintings that I have and put them on the front and continue that way from
Right.
now on.
Okay, so I know a few artists and they paint on stretched canvases and the canvases are pretty thick and they sign it on the side of the canvas instead of the front. So it's still kind of visible. It's not right there, but as you're looking at it from a different direction, you go, oh, there's the signature. So that's another thing that some people do is sign it on the side so it doesn't interfere with the composition that's on the front.
Okay, well, that's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I did it is because I thought I didn't want I don't want their eye to go to my name. I wanted them to, to go to the painting. But, you know, you made a good point earlier about
Yeah,
the
so if,
signature.
let's just say the painting, it's, you know, it's a dark gray and there's all this, then just take a light gray and sign it over the dark gray. So it doesn't pop out. It's just light gray on dark gray. So you sign it in different colors or different according to the piece. So if there's a big red piece, you might sign it in a pink or a magenta or something that it kind of blends in, but it's visible. So like black on white, it's like the biggest contrast, but you do lower contrast so it doesn't interfere with it.
Right, yeah, because I just don't want people to immediately look at my signature because it's such a high contrast.
Right.
Got it.
Okay, thanks for your questions. Oh, Karen has one more question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. What do you suggest for signing sculpture other than signing on the bottom of a base?
Okay, so again, I mentioned that I was painting on glass in reverse and I wanted my pieces signed. So I got I had a Dremel drill and I got a diamond bit and I signed my signature on the glass. So I etched my signature into the glass.
Sure.
At the bottom right corner. So again, it was visible. So if you want to actually do an etched signature on your glass somewhere towards the bottom, it's visible, but not interfering with the piece.
Yeah, I was mainly looking for like, location, where, because it is important, I'm sure, to have it be seen. And I believe what you're saying about that. So I just didn't want to put it where it was I wanted to put it in a meaningful place, but also a place where it would be expected to be seen in a gallery situation.
Lower right corner of a painting so if you're looking at the front of a sculpture, again, the lower right corner is kind of where everybody expects it to be. Or you could always put it in the middle at the bottom. So, but be consistent. So people know that this is, your signature, they always expect it to be here, that it's not in all different places and they have to look for it. Okay. Okay, great questions. Thank you so much. And I hope I mean, it's not an easy topic with simple answers. So thanks for asking those. So let's go ahead and resume the presentation. Okay, so speaking of presentation, the presentation and quality. So when it comes to presentation, you must have pride in your artwork. Any work that you put out into the world will become your mark. So you want to make sure everything you intend to sell is in perfect condition and ready to be presented. And I know this is a little out of context, but Claude Monet, as he was getting older and he realized that he was getting close to the end, he took all the paintings that he wasn't happy with and took them out into his garden and he burned them all because after he died, he didn't want to be known for all these mediocre pieces. He wanted to be known for only the best pieces. So I'm not saying that you should burn your pieces, but you want to make sure that each piece is the best that you can, because those are going to go out in the world and they're going to represent you. So think of yourself as a brand. You want to have a quality brand. Always use the best materials that you can acquire and that you can afford. For each piece that you create, there are several elements of presentation that you should consider for showing both in person and online. So you should always take high quality images of your work. So if you can take really good quality images with your smartphone, great. But if you're really working large and you don't have the proper lighting, the images may show reflection or the colors may not be true to the piece. So you might need to use a professional. Write a short description of each piece that you make. So I started seeing more artists do this. And I kind of mentioned this when we were talking about the titles. A lot of artists are now writing the title, and beneath the title, they have a short description. Like they say, like we'll just say Sweet Memories. And then below it, it said, I used a yellow pipe in this piece because it's the pipe that my grandfather used, and it always brings back memories of great times with him. Something that adds to that individual piece, that when people read the description, it gives them a little bit more information that they can connect to. So as I go to artist websites and I click on an image and it shows the larger version, then I see the title, the size, the medium, and then I see the short description. And it really adds a lot to a piece and it helps people connect with it. So for unframed art, always finish your edges, or always wire your artwork for hanging, or have the appropriate base for the sculpture. So when somebody buys a piece of yours, it's ready to take home and hang. You wouldn't believe how many pieces were brought to our gallery that were not ready to hang, that didn't have any wire or any method to hang. And so we got to the point after the first year, we rejected any piece that wasn't ready to hang, and we would make the artist go home or go back to their studio and wire the piece. And they had to bring it back by a certain time before we hung it, or it wouldn't be included in the exhibition. Because people, when they buy the artwork, they just want to hang it right away, and don't make them do the work. Sign every piece, as we talked about. Date your pieces. So this is also kind of controversial. If you date the piece and then you're interested in entering a juried exhibition, and they say all pieces must be created within the last 2 years. Well, this piece was actually created 2.5 years ago. All of a sudden, you can't submit that piece. However, if there's no date on it, yeah, you can fudge 6 months. So do you date it? Do you put the year on it? So that's a big question. I've talked to several art consultants and art advisors about this issue, and they all say at least put the year on it. Okay, you don't have to put the month and the date, but put the year on it. And that's good for as you progress in your career and become an important artist, that kind of thing becomes important to your provenance. Make sure to keep good records when selling editions, especially editions. So have some type of software or an Excel spreadsheet that you keep track of all your pieces. You have the title, the sizes, you have where they are, if they won an award, where they've been shown. So if you're going to make additions, you have 1 of 25, 2 of 25, 3 of 25. Make sure you keep track of that so you don't sell 4 that are 5 of 25. That you're breaking the rules there. Okay. So any questions about presentation and quality? Raise your hand. Okay, Mary, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
So when you talk about wiring the art for hanging in general, you know, like if I do some mosaic pieces and some glass pieces, these are heavier. So like French cleats are good for us, but you think, okay, so
Yes,
French
so I
cleats
use
are,
wire as the basic, but cleats are a great solution to really heavy pieces.
okay,
Some galleries don't like to drill screws into the wall, so they might not be happy about that. But cleats are a good alternative. Okay, thanks for your question. Any other questions before we move on?
I have a
Karina?
question. Oh,
Okay, Karina, you had your hand up, so go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, and then we'll go to Susan. You need to unmute
Okay,
yourself.
unmute.
There we
Yes.
go.
Question. So in March of this year, I will participate in one of the exhibitions in San Francisco, the Fourth Mason. And I paid for a booth 8x8. And my question is, should I use only a few pieces to make a statement, or I can just fill up the space?
Yes,
With
so
my pieces are mostly large, like I don't know, 36 by 42, mostly abstracts and paintings.
okay.
I have some mixed medias also.
So a lot of artists want to hang their work salon style and get as many pieces as possible, and they're all crowded together, and that's the key word. They look crowded and they fight each other. So having breathing room between each piece or grouping them together, have 2 together, 3 together, and then space between those groupings is a good strategy. So the pieces don't look so crowded that they all blend together. So, and if you pick 2 or 3 that really look good together, somebody might want to buy those 2 that are hung together.
As I said, like you said, yes.
Yeah. So grouping them together and having space in between the groupings is probably the best solution for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Karina. And Susan, go ahead and ask your question next.
I'm wondering about mats. I do watercolor, and I'm wondering about sizes of mats. Is there kind of a rule of thumb for the, larger mats for larger pieces?
Okay, so one of the, when you say larger pieces, what size are your watercolors?
My
This-
largest is 22 by 30.
Okay, so I might take and make it a 12-inch wide. Like I'm taking half of one of the dimensions. So maybe have like 12 inches matting around it to give it that museum frame look. And a lot of times in the museum frame look, they'll put a little bit more at the bottom. So 12, 12, and 15 at the bottom. I really
Okay.
don't like that myself, but I see
Oh.
it quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
Usually if you're doing the extra space, it allows you to sign it. You're going to show your signature. It's a limited edition print. So you put 20 of 100. You might put the title on there. So having that little extra space might work for that, but I prefer the same amount of space around each side.
Okay.
Okie doke.
And then also, I've been seeing some people stretch their watercolor paper onto a wood, frame, or a wood stretcher bars, and just wrap, do the canvas wrap around them,
Mhm.
and then not put a frame on them, and they don't seal the watercolor.
Yeah, so over time, oil from a kitchen gets into the air, it adheres to the little filaments. They float around and they attach themselves to the artwork, and eventually they'll discolor the piece.
Okay,
So you really should have a protection, whether it's glass or you put some type of medium or varnish on it to protect it. It really needs to be sealed if it's not going to have glass.
like an acrylic spray or something like that, would that work, or is there?
So there's what is it? HV proof spray. So that
Okay,
it helps to protect it from the sunlight and keeps it from
Okay.
fading.
okay,
Or you could use a medium that has a matte finish
uh-huh,
and then maybe
Okay.
sand it a little bit or smooth it out. You might
okay,
or test different mediums out on several pieces, maybe old pieces or pieces that you don't want to sell, and just
Mhm.
what you could work. Okay.
And one final question, if I
Okay.
may. Let's see, signatures, would you paint them? Would you paint them with a brush?
On a watercolor
On watercolor or?
I think it's best to use a pencil. It just seems to me where I normally see is you sign works on paper with a pencil.
Oh, okay,
I know. I go to the Art Institute of Chicago. I have a connection. I go to the back room, to the study room, and I get to see pieces that are not on display and that are in drawers, and they pull them out. And I go to the print and drawing room, and that's what I'm seeing is pencil signatures.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your questions. Okay,
Mhm.
so be sure to mute yourself, and we're going to go ahead and resume the presentation. We got a lot to cover, so I'm going to go zoom through the rest of the material. So pricing your artwork, there's considerations you should take. The number of years you've been an artist, number of exhibitions you've been in, the number of galleries that represent you, the number of classes you've taken. These are all things that create your reputation. So part of pricing your artwork is your reputation. How long have you been an artist? How many galleries have you been represented by, or how many shows have you been in? And the longer you've been an artist and the more you've exhibited your work, the higher your prices can be. If you're just starting out, your prices need to be lower. They need to be affordable. And then you inch them up over time. So another thing to consider is the supplies, the framing, and the time that it takes to make the pieces. So you should maybe keep track of the supplies, cost of the frames, how long it takes you to work in the studio, and keep that in mind when you're pricing your work. And also your pricing history and sales history is important. So how have you priced your work before? You basically can't lower your prices, because somebody who bought a piece last year that maybe paid $10,000 for a piece, and now you've lowered the price to $7,500, they're going to feel like you cheated them. So you can't lower your prices. So look at your price history, your sales history. The faster you sell, the more you sell, then the more you can raise your prices. If your work's not selling quickly, then you keep your prices the same. If you need to raise the prices, inch them up, maybe 10% at a time. You should be consistent in your prices in size, medium, and complexity. So all the pieces of the same size within a series are the same price. If they're the same medium, if they're the same complexity. So you might have 20 pieces in a series. They're all the same size. Some take longer than the others. Some take less time. Some are more complex. Some are not as complex. It would be confusing if some were 2000, some were 2100, some were 1950, some just make them all 2000. Even though there's a little difference in the medium or difference in complexity and time, it's easier to be consistent by size. And the gallerists tell me that. And then keep in mind what I call gallery profit. You're going to have your art in galleries at one point, if not already. And the galleries generally take 50%. So you want to price your artwork where If it sells in a gallery and you get 50%, you're happy with how much you're getting. Then if you sell your art in an open studios event or a cafe where they're not taking a commission and you get the full amount, the full retail price, then it's a bonus. It's great. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Then discounts. Do you discount your artwork? Well, most galleries will offer a discount to returning clients. They'll offer a 10 or 15% discount. So if you buy a piece of artwork from them the first time, you don't get a discount. But usually if you come back and buy more, they'll give you a discount. So I prefer not to discount my artwork. I prefer that artists don't discount their artwork at all, because when you discount your artwork, what you're saying is it is okay to ask for a discount, and it is okay for you to ask all the artists in the world for a discount. I'm giving you a discount, so you should ask other artists for a discount. And I don't want people asking for discounts, and I don't like saying no to them. So, but if you feel that you must discount a piece of work, or you want to discount, if you discount it at 10 or 15%, it's in line with what art galleries do, and it's not that awful. If you make personal sales, sell artwork to people that you know, it should be, again, at the retail price. So if they sell in a gallery for $5,000, you need to offer the work as a personal sale at $5,000. Here you might give a 10 or 15% discount as well. And then inching up your prices, I mentioned that before, as your pieces sell, the higher the demand, the higher the price. So if you have a show and over 50% of the pieces sell, it means it's time to increase your prices. Okay. Any questions about pricing? I actually do a 2-hour program coming up about pricing. So if you want to learn more about pricing, you can sign up for that program. Any questions about what we covered? Karen, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a quick question on the discounts that galleries sometimes offer. If they offer a discount, is that coming out of their 50%, or does it or both ends?
Good question. So it's usually a split between the artist and the gallery, but some galleries will take the discount fully. It's in your contract. So when you go to work with a gallery, you sign a contract, and it talks about exclusivity, you know, that you can't show within that zip code or within that city limits or something like that. They should have insurance, things like that. They should address discounts. So they usually have their own policy, and you can say, you know, I disagree with that policy. Would you change it? Most likely they will not. You can try to negotiate, but it's usually split with the artist. So, but some do take that in full. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay,
thanks.
Karen, thanks for asking your question. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, we'll go ahead and resume the presentation. Okay, so writing your artist statement. So your artist statement is your mission statement. This is important to your saleability because they can't always talk to you or be with you in a show, but they could read your artist statement. They can go online and read it on your website, or it could be on display in your studio or in an exhibition. So your artist statement is your mission statement. This is your opportunity to fully discuss your personal beliefs, your influences, motivations, and your purpose in making artwork. A well-written artist statement can be an important tool in selling your work to potential clients, especially when you're not there in person. And it's also very helpful to art gallery owners. It helps them to be able to discuss your work with their clients. So when you write your artist statement, you can address, these are things that you can include, what your intentions are for your work, why you create this type of art, where you find your inspiration, which other artists or movements influence your work, what information about this, or share some information about the style of work that you create, or share details about the materials that you use, and let them know what led you to your career as an artist, or where you see yourself as an artist in the future. So these are things that you can include in an artist statement. Okay, and how do you write your artist statement? You should write it in the first person. These are my ideas. This is what I want you to experience. This is why I decided to do this. Always have someone else proofread for content and grammar, and do they understand your message? So before you print out or add your artist statement to your website, make sure you have somebody else proofread it. Okay, any questions about your artist statement? Raise your hand. Okay, again, we have a program in 2 weeks that's going to be about writing about your artwork. So if you want to learn more, you can sign up for that. Okay, the next is writing your artist bio, resume, and exhibit history. When I'm at a gallery or an exhibition and I see a piece that interests me, that I think I may want to buy it, the first thing I do is get out my smartphone. I look up the artist's name, I go to their website, and I look at their bio, their resume, their exhibit history. Who are they? Where have they shown their work? I want to know that I'm not buying something that's by a fly-by-night artist that's just doing this as a hobby. I want to see that they're professional. So your biography is important for people to see that you're a serious artist. So it should include a brief statement of who you are as a person and as an artist, written in the third person from an objective point of view. Everybody in the industry suggests that you write your art bio in the third person as if somebody else wrote it about you, and that makes it more seem like more authoritative. This can include factual highlights. You may include a photograph of yourself on your website to make the biography more personal and put a face to your name. In your bio, you can describe where you're from, any relevant education, training, or experience you have, something unique about yourself, your current work and goals. Then you have a resume. A resume is different from a bio. A resume is a bullet point list of your art accomplishments with entries in reverse chronological order. So you should keep your resume up to date. You wouldn't believe how many times I go to an artist's website and their resume is missing information from the last 6 months or a year, and I wonder if they're still alive or if they're still making artwork. You can include different headings. So headings that you can use in your bio, in your resume. It could be personal. Again, back in the day when I started out, this was pretty standard in a resume. Now, very few people include personal information. Personal is usually if you're married, where you live, etc. Education, that's really important. Any education you have, any degrees that you have, if you went to an art school, even if you took workshops with an artist or went to an art organization, took classes there, include it in your education. Anything that you can include in your education says, I'm serious about becoming the best artist that I can. And then you could include your exhibit history, which could be broken down if you have a museum exhibitions, solo exhibitions, juried exhibitions, group exhibitions, or charity exhibitions. You can break them down and have all the solo exhibitions in one section, all the juried exhibitions in another. In the resume, you should also list any awards or recognition that you have, any competitions that you won, collectors, if there's any well-known collectors of your work, names of people that others might recognize, like Larry Ellison, who's bought artwork from our gallery, any publications your artwork has been featured in, any teaching experience that you have. If you teach art, it shows to the world, I'm so good at making art that I also teach it. If you're a member of any art organizations, list those. That shows that you're active in the community, that you're active artists, that you participate in the community, and any related experience. Okay, any questions about your bio and resume? Raise your hand. Okay, Karen, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah. So I what I have been derailed from making work for the past 5 years because of a battle with cancer. And so I'm curious what you think about including that information in any of the resume or artist statement, any of those things that you just mentioned. Because first of all, as I was when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was just starting to get exhibits and people interested in my work and carrying it. And now all of that is gone. And what I'm concerned about is if I'm entering back into the space again, if I include the information that why I haven't been making work, that it explains it and it adds some
Okay.
context, but also gallerists could look at it and
So-
say, I don't.
Since we have a limited amount of time, I'm going to go ahead and answer your question. I've talked to gallerists about this in particular, and they say life happens to all of us. You have a parent that gets ill, you have to take time off and go to Minnesota to stay with your parents while they're in hospice. Things like that happen. So that's not going to hurt that you took 5 years off. But you know, all you have to do is you can put on your resume or in your bio that you had to take 5 years off to deal with health issues, and that you're happy to be back making art on a regular basis again. And you don't need to give any more details than that.
And you don't think that deters gallerists from wanting to work with you?
No, I mean, I have 3 degenerative discs. I've had spinal surgery. I'm going through some major health issues, and I'm still able to function and make artwork. So that doesn't hinder me from living my life. It just makes it more challenging.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks for your question. Any others? Stacy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a question. So in all the information that you put in for your biography and resume and all of your exhibit history and so forth, do those all need to be dated? And if so, how far back do you go?
Okay,
I mean, is there like a cut point?
So I've been doing art and selling art since I was in junior high school. I do not include junior high school, college. Even basically, I don't include anything prior to a solo show that I had in 1986. And I have start generally in 1998, but I include that one solo show. So I just do since, the turn of the century, I guess. So I just go back 24, 25 years now. And I have a very extensive exhibition history. I can be in up to 7 exhibitions or maybe 10 exhibitions in a year. So it depends on how many. So you might call out, if you don't have a lot, call out. You don't call out much, but if you have a lot, you might call out the ones that are not important, or ones from high school, or ones that were in cafes or restaurants.
And the dates should be on there, the years.
Okay, so that's the big question is, on exhibitions, I put the month and the year.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't put the specific, and if it's October and November, I'll just put one or the other. It's not really important that it's October and November. If it opens in October, I'll put October. If it's most of the month of November, I'll put in November. So just November and the year. And you put it in reverse chronological order in each category. So you have your juried shows, you have the most recent, and you go backwards. You have your solo shows, you have the most recent, and you go backwards. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, good. We'll go ahead and resume. Okay, a certificate of authenticity. This is something you might consider. Again, it helps encourage people that you're a professional and they want to buy your work. So for each piece of artwork you sell, you can include a signed certificate of authenticity. You can create a simple document that lists all the details, your name, the title, the media, the date, the dimensions. If you have editions, you can have a space where you enter in the purchase date. So it's a certificate that's saying this is an original piece of artwork that was made by so-and-so, and it's sold on this date, etc. You can even have a picture of the piece if you want. You can include a short artist bio in the certificate as well. You should always have your contact info and website address on that certificate. So here's an example of somebody's certificate of authenticity. It says original artwork by Mandy Brasa, and it has all her contact information. And then it has certain information: title of work, medium, dimensions, year of creation, location of creation, and then a blank line for purchase date. You'll see to the right that she created a seal, a gold seal that she ordered that's embossed with her initials and then her name around it. And then she puts that, so it makes it even more special. Like, this is really a certificate. It has a seal on it. And then it says that this certificate guarantees that this piece is an original Mandy Brasa painting, painted solely by the artist. The artist retains all reproduction and copyrights, and the date of the authenticized and the signature. So this is a great sample, and in the PDF file, this is included in the sample, in the PDF file. Okay, so any questions about creating a certificate? Okay, Carolyn Whalen, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, my question to you is, do you do certificates of authentication for all of your artwork? Because I never have. Do you do it yourself?
I done it for pieces. I was asked to photograph the Golden Gate Bridge for the 75th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge. And all my photographs, I did a certificate to be on the back of that because it was for a special, I was commissioned to do a special program, and I ordered seals, and each piece had a seal on the back. So I don't do that. Most of my work today is less expensive, so I don't do a certificate. But for larger, more expensive pieces, I have. Okay, and I find that people really, the purchaser really likes it, makes them feel like this is special, and they feel more confident in buying work from you because you have that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and resume the presentation. Let's see then. The next is you want to, of course, create an artist portfolio website so people can go and research and learn about you and find your artwork and buy your artwork. So you should have a homepage, and it should grab their attention. So when they go to your homepage, they go, oh my God, I got to learn more about this artist. So we recommend a quality image of your best artwork to grab their attention. And then you can have sub boxes or icons linking to your portfolio page, your biography page, your exhibitions page, your contact page. You can have a blog page or a newsletter page or events page. You can have multiple pages. But what's really great is to have an icon, an image, because people, when they see a picture of you with the word bio underneath it, they know that click on that and they're going to go to your bio. And it makes it more visually interesting. You should have a portfolio page, the portfolio page with your umbrella artist statement. So you see in the example, there's 3 different series, series 1, series 2, and series 3. If you have 4 or 5 or 6 series, you'd have an image from a artwork, one piece of artwork from each image, and then below it would be your artist statement. That's your umbrella artist statement about your entire body of work. You can have a link, have an image to link to each series. So if somebody's interested in the second series, that's all about clouds, they can click on that and go to that. Then you have a series page. They click on the image that goes to your series page. So the pages, you should have a page for each series with the series artist statement. Series artist statement should identify what's unique about this series versus the other series, and it should be shorter. So maybe 3 to 5 sentences. Whereas your umbrella statement might be 3 paragraphs of 5 sentences each. You can have an image, you should have an image, and then people can click on the images to see the pieces. You can have 10 to 20 images. When I ask gallerists how many images should be on a website, they say 10 to 20. 10, because then they want to see at least that you've done 10 pieces in the series that are all cohesive and very well done. No more than 20, because then it gets to be overpowering. There's too many pieces. They don't want to keep scrolling. So on your series page, you have up to 20 images, and then you can have a separate page for sold works. The gallerists tell me, and I've experienced the same thing. I'm looking for artwork for a show or artwork to purchase, and I go to an artist's website and go, oh my God, I love this piece, and it's sold. And it's like, I'm just broken, heartbroken. And then it makes me not want to buy another piece because I already picked out the piece I love the most, and all the rest are second. So gallerists suggest that you have a separate page and all your sold works on that. So you have on your series page all the available work. You can have a separate page for artist statement and exhibit history, so your bio. Create or include videos of you making artwork. So you should have photographs of you in your studio, your workspace, you making artwork. You can have photos, you can have videos. People love that. You should have a contact page. You should include your city and state. You would not believe how many artist websites I go to, and that doesn't say where they are. Are they here in Chicago? Are they there in California? I don't know. Make it easy for your clients to contact you with your email address and phone number. You don't have to put your phone number, but I like to do that. You can have a sign-up form for your email newsletter. So you should be sending out an email newsletter once a month, letting people know about events or new series that you're making, etc., so they can sign up for your email newsletter on your contact page. And this is where your social media links should be as well, for Facebook, Instagram, etc. Okay, any questions about your website? Raise your hand. I assume everybody has an artist website? Yes? Does everybody have their artwork broken down by series on their website? Raise your hand if you have your artwork broken down by series. Okay. So it seems like some of you have a little bit of work to do. Again, when I talk to art gallery owners, this is something that's really important to them, is that you break down your art by series. So you have all the landscapes together, all the seascapes together, all the cloud pieces together. It makes it so much easier for them to digest your work and make sense of it and then select it. Okay, so let's go ahead and resume the presentation. Okay, so this is your chance to ask me any questions at all about what we talked about before we wrap up. So does anybody have any just general questions or questions about something we talked about earlier? Okay, Karina, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Just a question. I don't know if it's related to the art, but if I want to get my foot into the door for commercial buildings in San Francisco, could you give me an advice where to reach out to, except
So I do a program called Extend Your Reach, and I'm not doing it in the spring, but I'm doing it in the fall. And I share in 2 hours all about working with art consultants and interior designers and people that work and placing your artwork in commercial spaces. Now, if you like, I do one-on-one consulting with artists, and I do a $99 one-time special. So if you don't want to wait till the fall to take that class, email me, let me know, and we can
I can reach out to you. Thank you.
and I'm going to explain that a little further.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it, Stephen.
Okay, sure. Okay,
Thank
Cynthia has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
I was wondering if you could maybe give a little idea what you mean by identity.
You mean intention?
No, I think one of the first things you said, well, was it intention? I thought you said
Yeah.
identity in the very
No,
beginning.
intention. To me, intention is the key to living. In everything I do, I have to have an intention. I have to know where I have to intend what I want to have in my life so that I can make the choices where to live, who to have a relationship with, whether to have a relationship or not, what kind of art to make, where I want to sell my art. So the intention, what you want to do with your career, what you want to do with your artwork, do you want that? I think it's really important to know that, because a lot of people that don't have an intention will decide, somebody say, oh, do you want to be in this show? Oh yeah, I'll be in the show. Okay, you need to make 5 pieces with the theme. And then they make 5 pieces that are completely different theme from what they normally make. And then after the show, they have these 5 pieces that don't go anywhere, that don't fit with anything, that they can't show or sell. And therefore they just wasted time. But if you know that your intention is to make this type of work and stick to it and focus, then when somebody says, we'd like you to make 5 pieces for this show in this theme, and you say, I'm sorry, I don't cover that theme. I don't have the time to make 5 new pieces. And so you make the right decisions and you follow that one path towards your intention. Does that make sense?
It does, and I just think it's so refreshing to hear anyone, you obviously in particular, address that, because yeah, I mean that comes up all the time. It's like 5,000 shows, and which ones are you going to choose? And I think just having an intention, sorry, you at least know what you're not interested in,
Yes.
and then you work on your thing. Yeah,
It's
cool.
hard to say no, but if you know
Yeah.
what intention is, you know when to say no.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions, general questions? I thought somebody else had their hand up earlier. Okay, Stacy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, it's not directly related to anything important about this program, but you did mention earlier about a couple of artists that you know who found some good quality paint that they were using as a substitute for gold leaf. Do you remember what brand it is? Or
No, I don't know the brand. You'd have to
okay, I've tried a
research.
couple. I'm sorry.
You'd have to do some research. Have you contacted Golden Medium?
Oh yeah, I've tried a bunch of stuff. I thought you might have the magic one that I haven't run into yet.
So there's an artist that I have his work here. He's using this metallic silver, and it looks like mercury has flowed onto the canvas. But I don't know what brand he's using. Okay, I hope you
I'll
can
hunt it up.
because and if you do, let me know. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and resume to wrap up. So if you'd like me to email you with a PDF file handout of this program, please email me a request to do so at my email address, stephen5w@sbcglobal.net. And so if you do that tonight, then the first thing in the morning, I'll reply to you. I just want to let you know I'm leaving to go to Mexico City for 3 months on Wednesday. So I'm going to be packing and traveling and etc. So if you don't do it tonight, it may be several days before I can get back to you. So I am home all day tomorrow and I can reply to you tomorrow. So send me an email, let me know that you want the PDF file. I'll reply with an attachment of that. And future programs that are coming up, we're doing programs every other week for 2025. So January 20th is writing your artist statement, 2 hours about tips and suggestions and ways to write your artist statement. Really good insight. In February, we're doing pricing your artwork and entering juried shows. It's really important to build up your exhibit history, and entering juried shows is one of the easiest ways to do that. Then in March, we have alternative avenues to exhibit and sell your work. So if you are just starting out and you can't get into a gallery, a lot of suggestions of other ways to show and sell your work. And then if you want to really create an attention-grabbing website, That's on March 17th, and programs go through May and the beginning of June. So you can go to the website to sign up for any of those. I work with the Quick Grant program, and they award reimbursements up to $600 to artists in California to work with consultants, coaches, and mentors. So you can receive 4 free 1-hour one-on-one consultation sessions via Zoom with me to help you develop strategy, goals, and action plans. So if you're interested in that, you can email me at my email address and let me know that you're interested in the Quick Grant program. The deadline for entering is the 15th of each month. So if you submit by January 15th, you get notification on February 15th, and then the activity can start on the 16th or after. And so they actually reimburse you up front. They ask for your address to cut a check and mail it to you, or they get a direct deposit and it goes directly into your account. I do one-on-one consulting, and if you're interested in just doing one first-time special at $99, we can do that as well. And I'm going to Mexico for 3 months, and I'm doing art and food tours. And I'm doing tours on February 11th to the 14th and March 18th to the 21st. So we're going to visit art galleries. We're going to stop and taste different local foods and drinks. It's a lot of fun. The Zonamaco Art Fair is the week before February 11th. And so a lot of people are coming down to Mexico City for the Zonamaco Art Fair and then staying to take the tours. So if you're interested, let me know. And you can register for any of these online programs or learn more about the one-on-ones at the Artist Network website, which is sfartistnetwork.org. And please be sure to share this with your friends. If you know other artists that you think would benefit from these programs, please share the website link to the programs with them or forward them the Artist Network emails to them. And I'd appreciate that a lot. I like to end the program each time with getting feedback from you. So if your video is on and I can see you, I'm going to ask you. If your video is off, I will not ask you. So if you don't want to participate, you can turn your video off. And I'm just going to go across the screen from the bottom. So Christy, we're going to start with you. Please share with me one thing that you feel that was really new or important that you heard from tonight's program.
Well, I'm currently taking Stephen's 4 series and working on the Quick Grant, and spent quite a bit of time with Stephen in the first one-to-one. And tonight, talking about the body of work has really clarified for me some things that I'm thinking of doing that I can stop thinking about doing now because they are too far afield.
Okay.
So that's my input. It's really worth it to do the one-on-one with him if you're thinking about it.
Okay, Christy, thanks so much. Thanks for sharing your key point from tonight, and thanks for joining us in the program tonight. And Karina, if you want to unmute yourself, please share with me one thing that you feel was a key takeaway from tonight's program for you.
Yes, I really appreciated the information that you told me about how to present maybe in series the pieces if I will have an exhibition, or they will make a statement more than I just put and everything to be like horizontal or all vertical setup.
Okay, great. I'm glad that
very important for me. Thank you. And
Good.
makes sense.
Okay.
Just, yeah, until you don't speak about it, it's a kind of you get so lost in your own ideas and
Yes.
bubble that you don't see the big picture. Thank you.
I understand that. Okay, Karina, thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks for joining the program tonight. And
Thank you.
Carolyn Wayland, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one thing that you feel was new or important that you heard in the program tonight.
Well, I think it was important to consider this idea of rules for each series. So what do I want to have in each series that's consistent throughout the series, and also maybe 3 different sizes in the series as well. So yeah, to how to format the series.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad that you found that helpful. I think that's the key point. Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you for joining us tonight. And then Susan, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one thing that you felt was a key takeaway from the program.
I'm agreeing with the body of work and the series and the rules that go along with that, sizes and, similar sizes and things like that, more specific details about that. Very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Susan, thank you for sharing that. And thanks for joining us. And Mary, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one thing that you felt was a key takeaway from tonight's program.
I'm going to duplicate something that was also said because it was what I thought. For me, the idea of doing in series was sort of intuitive, but a way I had never concretely expressed it in words, but it also just seems to be how I think when I do work. But I had not thought about setting up and establishing a set of rules for what are the guidelines, at least consciously. I think unconsciously, I have, but I think doing it consciously and actually writing them down would be more impactful. I'm going to say 2 things, and I think that the titling, it was insightful for me to hear you say about how this title can be used to establish a deeper emotional connection with the viewer.
Good.
That's all.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me, and you're confirming that I'm doing the right thing and adding the correct content in these programs. Thank you, Mary, for sharing that, and thanks for joining the program. And Stacy, if you want to unmute yourself and share with us one thing that you felt was new or important to you that you heard in the program tonight.
Well, I was also going to mention the series, the idea of consolidating some things, but aside from that, also, it's kind of a small thing, but I never thought about having a separate page for already sold pieces on my website. And I don't know why I never thought of that. It seems obvious now, but that was something that made sense to me and I'm going to do.
Okay,
So
good.
thanks.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. I really enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed talking with you. Sounds like you got a lot out of this program. Be sure to email me. I'll send you the PDF file. It has the sample of the certificate of authenticity. It's really helpful. And I hope to see you at future programs. So good night, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Take care.